Hey everyone, it's Dee. So today I'm talking about a movie that I've wanted to talk about since I saw it a couple weeks ago, and that is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now, if you've been on the internet at all within the last, couple months, you've probably at least heard of the movie, and I always like talking about set design and costuming in movies, so that's what we're here to do today. There's honestly so much in this movie that I'm not sure if we'll have time for this, and also, if you haven't seen it, here's just a fair warning that it's hard not to spoil this movie when you talk about it. So I would say if you care about that kind of thing, come back to me. I will be here for you. So Everything Everywhere All at Once was directed by Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, with production design by Jason Kisvarde and costumes by Shirley Kurata. One thing that I really like about certain sci-fi movies is when they use production design to kind of explain the world without like a whole bunch of dialogue. I think this film does that pretty well. There's a lot of contrasts between the worlds without characters like actively saying, okay, and now we are here, for the most part. I'd say the general art direction also does a lot for the characterization of each character. We have Evelyn, played by Michelle Yeoh, the mother and the heroine of the story, Waymond, played by Ke Huy Quan, who is the kind of peacemaker of his family, and Joy, played by Stephanie Hsu, the daughter and a very pivotal character. So first let's talk about, I would say the opening shot, which is all one long take of Evelyn doing her taxes. We see a lot of clutter, the multiple screens coming from the laundromat security cameras, all the tax papers, all of this reflecting the kind of mental clutter that Evelyn is experiencing. She's harried, she's stressed, she has a lot of responsibility. Of course, we also notice the googly eyes, which are a staple of Waymond's character, but also kind of sets the tone of the film. It's like there's a little bit of silliness here already. There's also a lot of realism. There's plastic crates, the laundry stuff from downstairs. There's things that you can obviously see were built up from a family living there for a long, long time. You can tell that the production designer, art director, set deck really put thought into characters, and also these people have lived here for 20, 30 years maybe. They've probably accrued some stuff. Now, when Waymond comes into frame, he is reflected in a small mirror, one of multiple that we see throughout the film. In fact, mirrors are used a lot as kind of motifs for fracturing, for the parallel universes, literally just mirror universes. But we'll get back into that. For now, let's focus on the main characters' costumes. I have a quote here from Daniel Scheinert that says, Shirley Kurata was our costume designer. She does a lot of glam and a lot of really off-the-wall styling for pop artists, but she also has such deep love for authentic, everyday people. She got really excited to explore Chinatown for shoes and vests and necklaces that you could only find there. And I love that. I love that each character's costume is so normal. It's weird to say, but I feel like they've definitely nailed the authenticity there. Michelle Yeoh is quoted as saying that her character is the voice of mothers, aunties, grandmothers that you pass by in Chinatown or in the supermarket that you don't give a second glance to. She's never had a voice. And you can really see that in her costume. It's very smart, very sensible, very simple, the opposite of attention grabbing. If we compare this to the various flashbacks of Evelyn from when she was younger, she's definitely in a lot more fashion forward clothing, a lot brighter colors, pinks, things that kind of mirror what she's wearing in her current state. And we can also see her kind of character arc expressed through her costume. Later at the party, she's seen wearing red, which makes sense because they're at a New Year party, I believe. But the thing that I like is, first of all, it's a super bright color for her, but also when she starts to give in to the idea of nothing matters and I'm going to destroy everything, her sweater, the back of her sweater says punk. I thought that was a fun detail. Now, Wayman's main costume actually reminds me of Steve from Blue's Clues, which works for him because he's kind of the peacekeeper, the gentle soul, very friendly and playful. You know, the fanny pack is just 100% dad. And the fight scene with it is actually what convinced me to watch the movie in the first place. It's actually very clever to have that symbol of like suburban practicality used as a weapon. There are like props that also aid with his characterization. I spotted a dustpan with a smiley face and also, you know, the googly eyes, which they play an important role. I was very surprised upon my first watch. I was like, why the googly eyes? And then I got it. This is just an aside, but they very easily could have thrown his character away, and I'm really glad that they made him kind of integral to the entire story. Like, it definitely added time to the movie, but I think it was necessary. Now, Joy in the main universe wears very baggy, kind of layered dark clothing, and I might be projecting a little bit here as I say this, but it kind of reminds me of that like low effort, I don't want to be bothered with clothes today because it takes a lot of brain power, that kind of practicality that both mirrors and also contrasts her parents. And I think that ties into her character pretty nicely. Although she's not shown to be like a full-on nihilist like the main villain, she's not allowed to fully express herself, at least around her family, and she's implied to have depression. I will get into some other costumes later, but for now let's move on to world building. Now, I think I said this before, but every one of the worlds has a distinct look to kind of differentiate it, to show the audience instead of telling them. Evelyn's main universe is probably the most mundane, lots of straight lines, neutral colors, natural lighting. We can compare that to the Alphaverse, which is very kind of like a post-apocalyptic. I wasn't sure whether to compare it to like Road Warrior. It's almost as if Road Warrior and Blade Runner had a baby. You know, the tech is very much like 80s movie, like this is what the future will look like. Lots of buttons and brightly colored things, lots of noisy screens. The other worlds have very distinct color palettes. For example, the hot dog universe. Lots of pinks and browns and neutrals. Also, everything is a bit too long, like goes on Evelyn's blouse, these gloves, all the strings on the laundry bags. The Bagel Palace is entirely monochrome, only whites, grays, and black. The followers are wearing white with gray visors, and Evelyn is the only one in brown. I was wondering why specifically. It might be in an interview that I did not read, but I was thinking that maybe it's because brown is kind of all the colors mixed together, or also because she's just not fully convinced by the whole nihilism thing. That's probably the simpler answer. Now, mirrors and fracturing are a big motif throughout the film. Some of it is achieved via VFX, but a lot of it is production design. Mirrors are generally placed where they would not be logically, but I think the movie's tone is such that you don't really notice it. Like, I don't think Evelyn ever goes into like a bathroom. You just kind of accept it and move forward. And a big detail that I like as far as the whole like parallel universes thing is that whenever Evelyn unintentionally hops universes, she'll bring like a prop from another universe with her, like tax papers or confetti or something like that. So the bagel black hole is super significant to the plot and is also referenced many times visually throughout. Alpha Waymond, when he's first introduced, pulls out an umbrella with donuts on it. He also offers Evelyn a bagel when he says that she should eat. And the sculpture that we see in the office after Evelyn has her first encounter, or second, I guess, with the main villain, there is a statue. It's basically two people holding hands and their bodies forming a circle. Okay, another side. There's a painting in the same scene of a dog fighting a heron. This is by Abraham Hondius, who did a lot of paintings about hunting. But I think it's a fun little Easter egg, especially right after we've realized that Evelyn is being hunted, kind of across universes. So let's move on to my favorite part of the movie, Jobu Tupaki's costumes. I won't go over everything. She has at least 12 costumes throughout the movie, but here are some ones that stood out to me. The Elvis costume, of course, is the first time I think that we see her without her face obscured, and the first time that Evelyn, I think, has to acknowledge that she is the big bad. And it's truly a wild way to introduce a villain. Not only is it kind of slightly ridiculous, but, she can take from any time period or place. She is literally the king. I like the wrestling outfit that she wears to body slam the security guard, and as she does it, she makes him wear a luchador mask. Her makeup is also always slightly over the top as well, and I can definitely see a lot of the looks coming from different trends that I've seen on social media within the past 4-ish years, I want to say. Now, her palace outfit is really amazing here. The dress is made of latex or something similar. Her hair is a crown shaped like a bagel. She has a ruff around her neck and just is covered in pearls. I was wondering if the outfit itself was based on Queen Elizabeth, mostly because of the ruff. But also, as I was doing some research, I saw that Queen Elizabeth also wore a lot of pearls, and this was to symbolize chastity, but also as a symbol of the Greek goddess Artemis, who is a goddess of chastity, but also of the hunt. So if that was purposeful, it's triply symbolic, especially because the palace itself has a lot of Greco-Roman-esque bits of architecture in it. Her final outfit is a mix of different fabrics. Shirley Kurata actually draped everything by hand. Her makeup is mostly the pop art style that we saw several years ago, and her hair is just blown out. She's very much desperate, no longer carefully planning her look, caught off by Evelyn's kind of love and support. I just really like that kind of reflection in her costume. Also, one quick aside, for the Jerry Scott, I think, fit that we see at some point, to which I think the directors, or maybe the costume designer, referred to it as the K-pop fit. So now that I've talked about Jobu at length, I did want to pay special attention to the scene in which she confronts Evelyn in her home. In this scene, we see a part of the house that we haven't really seen before. It's just as cluttered as the rest of the house. Exercise equipment, those plaid curtains, and it's literally just wall-to-wall picture frames. And you can see they frame it when Jobu is trying to appeal to her mother and Evelyn is ready to fight her, I guess. She's kind of framed with baby pictures of herself, kind of a cheeky way to say this is still your baby, no matter if she is also a destroyer of worlds. More costumes from the supporting characters. The IRS woman, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, whose name is Deirdre Bobierdra. Anyway, her costume is literally based off a stock photo. And at the party, when she and Evelyn sit together, it's really funny because they kind of look like ketchup and mustard. I'm not sure I feel like that was purposeful because they cut to them in the hot dog universe being married. Becky, Joy's girlfriend, is shown to kind of not fit in, mostly just because Evelyn doesn't accept her, and she's a little awkward, and she also can't really communicate with anyone except Joy and Waymond to a certain degree. During the New Year's party, while everyone else is wearing red, Becky's wearing blue. And also it's interesting when Evelyn kind of admits to her father that Joy and Becky are in a relationship, you can see more of the blue set deck that they have mixed in with all the red. I thought that was just an interesting kind of fun framing. Alpha Grandpa uses a lot of old tech on his wheelchair, kind of in a reference to the Alpha universe, which uses a lot of the same kind of look. But also, he's an old man that is stuck in the past. Later, when the whole family is reunited, they're all wearing coordinated colors. It's kind of subtle, but everyone is wearing shades of blue, gray, or brown. You know, they're all coordinated, they're all a family. Other references, let's see. Of course, there's the movie star universe, the In the Mood for Love, the Wong Kar-wai verse. His movies are mostly referenced through like lighting and camera techniques. Evelyn's dress is actually really similar to some dresses that she's worn on the red carpet, especially for promotion of Crazy Rich Asians. Wayman's tie and hair seems like a very obvious nod to Tony Leung's character in The Mood for Love. Okay, lastly, some fun little details. So, the trophies, because taxes are a pain in the butt. The bunker that we see is half adult fun dungeon and half like survivalist, which is why there are like weapons and also like gas masks. During one of the fight scenes in the office building, Evelyn slides into a break room and you can see that it's decorated for like a birthday party. That kind of detail isn't necessary. They could have left that office blank and she could have used like, I don't know, a plastic knife and fork as her weapons, because those are in all break rooms and offices, but they didn't. They specifically made it like, oh, someone's having a birthday party today. And it's that kind of, I don't know, attention to detail that I really love. It defines so much about what I like about this movie. I wanted to compare the shots of the dining room from the first, second, and third acts. Everything is pretty similar throughout each scene, besides like the placement of the googly eyes and some of the laundry bags, which lights are on. One thing that I like is that the dominant color through each of these scenes is the dominant color in each act. So the first act, green and neutral. That's basically it. The normal world. Act 2, reds, warm colors, you know, that's where the majority of the conflict and fighting is. And then for Act 3, blue, you know, the quiet resolution. You know, there's literally so much more that I could say about this film. I just love the maximalist approach that the filmmakers took to it, all the references. You know, it was really kind of a storytelling with everything that they had at their disposal. And I always like seeing that kind of effort in a film. So yes,